My relationship with the Alpha is filled with contradictions. 𝐊𝐢𝐳 is my captor, yet 𝐊𝐲𝐻 also, the desire deep within me. Every time he gets close, my heart races. But I know this feeling is dangerous. Am I in love with him? Or am I just deceiving myself? Chapter 40. She was right. Families do protect each other, but why was she telling me this? A horrifying thought catapulted into my head and I couldn't stop myself from gasping out loud. What if she knew 𝐾𝐜𝐜 was the one who killed Harlan and was covering up for her? She believes that I am protecting 𝐾𝐜𝐜 because she's my family, and this was her way of saying she knew why I was doing it. What's wrong? Concern was etched onto 𝐸𝐳's face as she took a step closer towards me. Instinctively I took a step back and watched as sadness enveloped 𝐸𝐳's face for a couple of seconds before it returned back to normal. Why was she sad about me moving away from her? It was just earlier today when she was crushing my hands and threatening to kill me. Nothing, I whispered. I know what you did to Harlan. Teresa started to say as I swallowed harshly. But I also know what he did to you. Do you believe me? I asked the question slowly. I had to know the answer to this question. If she believed me, then she might not be such a huge threat to me. If she didn't believe her brother was a rapist or believed that I was covering up for 𝐾𝐜𝐜, then that would lead to so many complications and issues. Teresa's face hardened and I wondered if I had made a mistake in asking that question. Something strange flashed in her eyes and she looked away for a second before looking back at me with a composed look. Yes, I believe you. And I believed her. I felt as though a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulder. Yes, I would still be cautious around her, but at least she knew why we did that to her brother, and maybe she wouldn't be as vengeful now that she knew. There was no intention to kill him. I had no idea why I was still speaking, but I felt obligated to tell her what happened. Just wanted him to stop. I repeated the words 𝐾𝐜𝐜 had told me. She didn't want to kill him. She didn't think she had. She wanted him to stop the brutal assault on her, and he ended up dying. Teresa looked away and silence engulfed us. I peered at her, trying to figure out what she's thinking. Without another word, she began to exit the room. Just as she was about to leave the room, she turned around and faced me. I don't blame you for what you did. Her words felt sincere and true. She muttered something else, but I didn't quite catch it. She closed the door behind her and I let out a sigh. Today had been utterly confusing. I wasn't sure what to make of it. Every part of it confused me. The Alpha confused me. Teresa confused me, and I even confused myself with my behavior and actions. What the hell have I been doing? I'm supposed to be figuring a way out of here, not making out with the Alpha. A groan escaped my lips as I thought about what we did and almost did. I can't believe I kissed the Alpha. Not only did I kiss him, I wanted to fuck him as well. Wanting makes it sound as though I was only thinking about it. That would be inaccurate. I didn't just want it. I made it vocal. I told him I wanted him to FCK me. Do you want me to FCK you? Yes, placing my hands in my palm, I let out an embarrassed groan. What the hell am I doing? Why am I throwing myself at this man who's holding me here against my will? Stockholm Syndrome. It has to be that. What else could it be? Stockholm Syndrome is having feelings of trust or affection in cases of kidnapping or hostage taking by a victim towards their captor. I cannot believe I'm one of those girls I used to laugh and scoff at. Whenever I used to watch movies and it included Stockholm Syndrome, I used to think, how? How can you like or even fall in with someone who's holding you captive? What do you see in that person other than a psychopath? Not that I was falling in love with him or even liking him. It was just purely lust. That thought made me laugh out loud. I used to laugh at those girls too. The human girls who would actively seek out werewolves to fuck. They would have this look in their eyes. This dazed look as they described their tryst and how nothing could compare. Now look at me asking an Alpha. Not even a regular werewolf, but an Alpha. To FCK me. Oh, how the tables have turned. I had to stay away from him. It would be hard since he was keeping me here against my will, but I have to limit our interactions as much as I could. That will help me break or reduce the stupid thoughts and feelings I was having towards him. It wasn't just me though. I'm not the only one causing this problem. He is. He's to blame for this as well. His actions and words are causing me to act like this. He has reiterated many times how much he dislikes humans and how weak we are, yet here he was asking me if I wanted him to fuck me. His words and behavior do not suggest that he despises humans. Well, sometimes it does. Some of his words and actions do indicate that he hates us humans, but recently it has shown not exactly the opposite. I would go as far as saying he loves humans. However, it does show that he doesn't hate humans as much as he claims to. Another explanation entered my head and I found myself deciding that this was probably the actual reason. Sex, that is it. He just wants to have sex. Typical male, only thinking about his dick. What about you? I ignored the sniggering voice in my head. I had no intention of delving into that. Sliding my hands under pillow cover, I pulled my phone out that I had hid earlier. This was the reason why I agreed to kiss the alpha. And did a lot more too. Unlocking the phone quickly, I scrolled through my contacts and called 𝐾𝐜, ignoring all the messages and missed calls I had received while I was held in captivity. The phone rang for a few seconds and I made myself comfortable on the bed. Hello? Nola. 𝐾𝐜's timid voice came through the phone. Yeah, it's me. I told her as a smile graced my face. I got my phone back. That's good. 𝐾𝐜 whispered softly, not sounding as happy about this as I was. I can call you more often now. I'll call you every day and we can talk. There won't be much of an update from me. I literally do nothing here. I let out a small chuckle. But you can tell me what you're doing and about your day. Silence. 𝐾𝐜. The smile began to slip away from my face. Is everything okay? What's going on? I was thinking about you. I miss you. Relief filled my body and a smile filled my face again, however this time it was sad. I miss you too. This is temporary. I'm going to come up with a plan and get out of here. We'll see each other soon. You shouldn't be there. You didn't do anything. 𝐾𝐜's voice was filled with guilt and despair. I'm okay, 𝐾𝐜. Don't worry about me. I paused for a second before continuing. I didn't get a chance to you properly earlier. What have you been up to? How has your day been so far? I wanted to distract her and get her mind off the guilt she was feeling. I should be there. You shouldn't be going through this. I'm not going through anything. Seriously, I'm just in the room. Nothing is happening to me. The only bad thing is that I'm bored out of my mind. I ended the sentence with a chuckle despite the panic that was slowly beginning to build up inside me. You shouldn't be there. It should be me. 𝐾𝐜 repeated again, her words coming out in choked whispers, and I knew she was in tears. Hey, it's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. I tried to reassure her, however my words did not help as little sobs began to fill my ear. Please don't cry. 𝐾𝐜's sobs slowly came to a halt after a minute or so as I patiently waited for her to calm down. I was going to reassure her that I wasn't in any pain or danger when 𝐾𝐜 spoke again. Her words causing my heart to skip a beat. I want to tell everyone the truth. Chapter 41. This time it was silence from my end as I tried to comprehend the stupid sentence 𝐾𝐜 had just uttered. Has she lost her mind? Nothing good will come out of 𝐾𝐜 telling the truth. Nothing at all. The web of lies I had spun has gone too deep and too many people were involved. There was no way I could backtrack from this and expect to leave 𝐿𝐸 the less. 𝐾𝐜. Her name came out of my mouth slowly as I resisted the urge to scream. What are you talking about? I want to tell everyone the truth. 𝐾𝐜 repeated the sentence, however her words weren't as confident as the first time she had uttered it. Why? Why do you want to do that? She must have been able to hear the annoyance and frustration in my voice as her words came out quiet. I don't want you to get hurt because of me. Taking in a deep breath, I tried to calm myself down. It would do no good to either of us if I yelled at her and told her she was crazy to suggest this. I understand where she was coming from and I knew she felt bad about the predicament we were in, but it's done now. We needed to resolve this. End the chapter. Not create more issues. I promise you. I'm not hurt. Right now. I added mentally. It wasn't 𝐾𝐜's fault. She has no idea what has happened since her and Uncle Tom left here. For all she knows, I'm being tortured every day and she's the reason why. She has no idea that there's no real threat anymore. Anyone or thing that could hurt or cause us issues has gone. They're investigating us. They'll find out the truth. No, they W. Someone knows the truth anyway. 𝐾𝐜 continued, ignoring my interruption. Frowning, I racked my brain as I tried to think about who she was talking about. My eyes widened as I realized who it was. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐼𝐬 𝐊𝐢𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She was talking about Miles. She must be constantly on edge, worried that whoever saw us would tell the Alpha and point to us as the murderers. I debated on whether or not I should tell her about Miles. I wanted her to know that he wouldn't be a problem for us anymore and that she could relax and not worry about anyone saying what they saw or threatened to do so, but I also didn't want by telling her that Miles did tell the Alpha what happened and that he's dead now. Nala. Wait. 1 second. I told her as I ran through possible scenarios in my head and wondered what the best option would be. Should I tell her or not? Okay. So I'm going to tell you something and I don't want you to panic or freak out. This is good news for us. It was bad news for Miles, though. What is it? 𝐾𝐜 asked, hesitantly. I know who was behind those messages we received. What? Wincing, I moved my phone away from my ear as 𝐾𝐜's yell almost busted my eardrums. Stop screaming. You know who that was. Though she was no longer yelling, her voice was still incredibly loud. Briefly I explained to her that it was Miles who was behind it all. The creep was watching us, watching our house, and saw us put the bastard's dead body into our car, drive up to Saddleworth Moors and bury the body. Why did he do that? What did he want? Sex, that seems to be the common theme with men. Miles fancied me in his creepy and delusional ways and wanted to use our situation in hopes of having sex with me. Unsure of how 𝐾𝐜 might take this piece of information, as she had recently been assaulted, and I didn't want her to get anxious or triggered, I hesitated for a minute or so before responding. I think he wanted to blackmail me so that I would have sex with him. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐼𝐬 meant so. 𝐾𝐜 trailed off, but I knew what she was trying to say. I know, but it doesn't matter anyway. He won't be an issue for us. Why? Because he's dead and lotting 6 under in the same location we buried the rapist. He's dead. He's dead. How 𝐾𝐜 questioned, sounding both shocked and confused. I would have to 𝐾𝐜 the truth. Hopefully she would feel more calm and at ease when she hears that the threat to both of us is minimal at the moment. The Alpha killed him. I quickly said those words and waited for 𝐾𝐜's response that didn't disappoint. She gasped, squealed, spluttered and mumbled out a few inaudible words for a couple of minutes while I waited for her to process the information. Why, 𝐾𝐜 finally managed to splutter out. Why did he kill him? For the 3rd time I pondered whether or not I should tell her the full truth. It make on her down. Okay, so like before, don't freak out. I began to say slowly. It might not sound like it, but it's good news. Don't say anything until I'm finished. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐼𝐬 𝐊𝐢𝐬 heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. 𝐾𝐜 confirmation came out more as a question. Taking in a deep breath, I began to explain what happened with Miles. While I was discussing how he died, a twinge of guilt filled me, and I shook my head as if I was trying to physically shake away the guilt was forming. What happened to Miles wasn't our fault. He got himself involved and should have backed away once he realized Alpha Alessandro was involved. Throughout my explanation, 𝐾𝐜 gasped and made choking noises, but did as I asked and didn't interrupt. Once I was done, I took in another breath. So you can't say anything to anyone. The Alpha and his cousin think it was me, and they're being very lenient about everything. We're very lucky. We can't mess up what we have. There was no response, and I removed my phone from my ear to see if the line was still connected. 𝐾𝐜. So they know the truth but think it was you. 𝐾𝐜's small voice was filled with disbelief. Yes, that's why you can't say anything. If you say it was you, then they'll know I lied and they'll think we lied about everything. They won't believe a word we say. Why did you say it was you? I grimaced slightly as I thought about how to answer the question. I didn't want to say or do anything that would diminish the pain and hurt she's went through and is still going through. 𝐾𝐜 is supposed to be the one who's receiving therapy and help, not me. I didn't. The Alpha just assumed, and I didn't correct him. My words came out in a whisper, and I waited with bated breath to hear her reaction. Are you annoyed that I did that? I probably should have told the Alpha the truth, however, after his surprising reaction, I didn't know how to. No, her answer came out quickly. I know everything you do is for me. It's to help me. Closing my eyes, I leaned against the bed frame. I would do anything for you, 𝐾𝐜. I need you to know that. I might say or do things that might not make sense to you, but please trust me. I trust you. Good. Now the whole saying the truth. Can you drop it, please? I know you think it's going to help me, but it's not. It's going to do the complete opposite. 𝐾𝐜 reluctantly agreed, and I found myself relaxing again. There were issues constantly popping up and I was dealing with them. I was doing well. I do feel as though I was going to die from the roller coaster emotions I was having and the stress of it, but it was better than dying at the hands of the alpha. I would soon learn that being at ease and having a stress-free life was not intended for me, and the next few days would shatter the illusion of peace I had allowed myself to believe was real. Chapter 42 Uncursed. I had to be. There was no other way to explain why these unfortunate situations they kept happening to me. It wasn't a coincidence. It was me. I was jinxed. Cursed. Hexed, or whatever you want to call it. That was me. 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐧𝐑𝐞𝐝. 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐧𝐑𝐞𝐝. 𝐾𝐜𝐜𝐬𝐽𝐿𝐬𝐬𝐽𝐿𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬 crumbling down. I had my phone back. I was in regular contact with �K𝐼 and my uncle. Teresa and Alpha Alessandro weren't an issue anymore, and I was somewhat okay here. Nothing dreadful was happening to me, unless you count the boredom. No one was targeting me, and I was left alone. If I actually thought about my situation, I could wholeheartedly say that I was blessed. I was very lucky to not be in prison or dead. Perhaps it was me who jinxed it all. I was forgetting why I was here. What they thought I did, and I was being ungrateful and kept pushing the boundaries. Perhaps it was karma for the things I had done. Despite our valid reasons, we did bury a body, and though I might not have killed that nonce, I was the reason why someone else was dead. To my 𝐻𝐻𝐸 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐷𝐞𝐝, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He was dead because of me. Granted, he shouldn't have got involved, but that didn't mean he had to die for our lies and action. I couldn't think about that for too long. The guilt would eat away at me, and I had other concerns. Did that make me a bad person? We all like to think of ourselves as the good guy, the hero of the story, the victim, the innocent one. We justify our behavior and action in our heads. We only did what we did because of XYZ. We had no choice. Anyone under these circumstances would do the same, but if everyone thought like that, then who was the bad guy or the villain? We can't all be saved. Some of us aren't good, we're just really good at fooling ourselves. We should have done what a good person would have done if they found themselves in our situation and told the truth. We should have called the police and explained what happened. The evidence was there. They would have seen his body, his clothes, and they would have seen �K𝐼. The marks on her body. The assault was visible, and they could have used a racket. �K𝐼's actions were justifiable, and it was self-defense. He was the one who forced his way into our house. He was the one who attacked �K𝐼, and �K𝐼 defended herself, and it went too far. It was an accident. It was a mistake. She never meant to kill him. People make mistakes. Good people make mistakes. Good prevails over evil. That's what we're told. At the end, good will triumph over evil. You see it in books, fairy tales, and movies. The good people win and peace is restored. Sadly, reality isn't like that. Good people don't win. They get shit head on. It's the bad people that win. If good people did win, the world wouldn't be the way it is. The world would have been kind, peaceful, and full of tranquility. In reality, all actions have consequences, whether it's good or bad, and unfortunately for us, it seems to be bad. The day hadn't started off badly, and I was unaware of the dangers that were to arise and woke up feeling somewhat content. Today was different. Better, since I now had a phone and I could text �K𝐼 whenever I wanted. Knowing that she was far away from here and safe and sound was a huge load off my crippling shoulders. I was never allowed to leave the house, so every morning I was and breathe in the fresh air. I would feel the wind in my hair. The sun would gently kiss my face and arms, and in those moments I would forget about my troubles and let go. That blissful moment was interrupted this morning by the sound of werewolves stomping around the grounds. There were werewolves there every day and it was easy to ignore them. However, today was different and there were werewolves everywhere. I should have realized something was going on. I should have paid more attention to it, but instead annoyance built up inside me and I felt pissed off that these stupid werewolves had disturbed my morning bliss. After texting 𝐿𝐷𝐷𝐿 and Uncle Tom, I put my phone away and headed to the bathroom, eager to have a shower and brush my teeth. Other than texting, I didn't even use my phone for anything else. Temptation filled every inch of my body every time I touched my phone, yet I didn't dare look at any of my social media accounts. There were 2 reasons for that. The first one was Miles. I didn't know what the Alpha had said about his death. Did he tell his family or other people that he was dead, or did people assume he was missing? Maybe they made up some story about him leaving the country so no one would look into it. I had a feeling the Alpha could make anyone disappear without a problem. That leads me to my second reason. Where was I? Was I a missing person? Do people know I'm at Alpha Alessandro's house? Do people know the reason why I was here was because of 𝐿𝐷𝐷𝐿? Ignorance is bliss and I needed all the bliss I could get. Going into that rabbit hole would only get me into more trouble. As tempting as it was to find out or to contact my friends, I stayed away from it and focused on what was important. All my meals were delivered to my room and breakfast was one of the meals where the maid would leave it on my bedside table while I was in the shower. I knew they usually had breakfast a lot earlier than this, but the maids here were very accommodating and gave me mine later. Once I had gotten out of the shower and wrapped a fluffy white towel across my body, exited the room and came to a complete stop. My food was waiting for me, but someone else was waiting for me too. Swallowing harshly, I clasped my towel tightly around my body. I knew the towel was secure, but I didn't want to risk accidentally flashing the Alpha. Alpha Alessandro was standing by the door, his face filled with a strange expression. His eyes scanned my body slowly and I could have sworn I saw his eye flash in them. "What are you doing here?" I asked softly. The Alpha didn't respond and instead watched a few water droplets from my hair trickle down to my chest. Without warning, the Alpha suddenly came towards me, causing me to let out a squeak and take a step back. "What are you doing?" I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. Alpha Alessandro stretched his hand out and gently caressed the skin above where my towel ends overlapped. His touch was soft and teasing as he skimmed my skin. I bit my lip hard to stop myself from making any noise. Alpha Alessandro was interrupted by the door slamming open. He withdrew his hand quickly, causing me to suddenly feel cold. "Have you told her?" a frantic voice asked. Looking around the Alpha, I saw 𝐿𝐷𝐷𝐿 standing there looking slightly frazzled. Her face was pinched as if she was worried about something. Her expression changed when she saw what I was wearing, or should I say what I wasn't wearing. "Where are your clothes?" she asked me before turning to the Alpha. "Why is she never wearing around clothes when she's near you?" Embarrassment filled my body and I could feel my cheeks becoming hot. "I just got out of the shower," I meekly tried to explain. "I was going to put some clothes on." After waiting half a minute for them to leave so I could change, neither of them moved. "Okay then," I muttered to myself. I grabbed my clothes, putting my bra and underwear at the bottom so you couldn't see it. Practically sprinting into the bathroom, I slammed the door shut and rubbed my body with the slightly damp towel before hastily putting my clothes on. Both the Alpha and Teresa were strange, but something felt off and I had a feeling the Alpha was in my room to tell me whatever it was Teresa came in asking about. I racked my brain for what they could possibly want to talk to me about, but I couldn't think of anything that would cause them both to come see me. It was bad. It had to be, or else Teresa wouldn't have been looking so worried. Hesitantly I opened the door and entered the room slowly. Alpha Alessandro and Teresa were whispering to each other and stopped when they saw me. What's going on?" The pair of them glanced at each other but didn't answer my question. Dread began to fill my body, making its way up to my throat where it was choking me. Was it 𝐿𝐷𝐷𝐿? Did something happen to her? Is that why she hadn't responded to my text? Is it 𝐿𝐷𝐷𝐿? I couldn't hide the urgency and panic from my voice when I asked that question. Did something happen? "𝐿𝐷𝐷𝐿 is fine," Teresa quickly responded and tried to give me a reassuring smile. However, I was far from reassured. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." The Alpha finally spoke. My parents are coming. His parents. They want to talk to you. Chapter 43. They wanted to talk to me. Why do they suspect something? They must do, else why would they want to talk to me? But what do they know and how did they find out? Did 𝐿𝐹𝐼𝐴𝐵 tell them? Did Teresa? What was going to happen now? How would they react? Questions upon questions began to fill my head, each one elevating my body's stress and panic levels. My body was on high alert and was screaming possible scenarios at me, and I was struggling to keep up. I had to calm down and keep a cool head, but how could I do that when all I could think about is what could happen if they find out the truth? I highly doubt they would be as understanding as 𝐿𝐹𝐼𝐴𝐵, and even if they did believe my version of events, they would ask questions, poke holes at my story and grill me further. For reasons unbeknown to me, 𝐿𝐹𝐼𝐴𝐵 and to me, 𝐿𝐹𝐼𝐴𝐵 and Teresa didn't do that, and did it mean his parents would? Why do they want to talk to me? I finally managed to ask. My voice was low and had a slight tremble to it. They want to talk to you about Harlan. Teresa answered softly. Why do they want to talk to me about him? I couldn't say the pig's name. This time it was the Alpha who answered. They know why you and your sister were brought here. They have questions. Can't you tell you've already spoken to me about it, and I don't know anything? I pleaded as my eyes darted between the two of them. Teresa shook her head and I felt my heart sink. They've insisted. You're going to have to talk to them. Swallowing the bile that was slowly rising in my throat, I closed my eyes and took in a deep breath. You can do this, Nala. Just a tiny bump on the road to freedom. If only it was that easy. Nothing was ever that easy, and I knew that this was going to be the beginning of the end. It was the end for me, but it didn't have to be the end for 𝐾𝐜𝐤. As far as everyone's concerned, 𝐾𝐜𝐤 had nothing to do with it, and it was all me. Tears began to fill my eyes as the seriousness of the situation began to slowly sink in. I was going to die. Let's leave the human to her food. We have time to discuss this later. Teresa looked like she wanted to argue, but the Alpha gave her a look that had her closing her mouth and agreeing to his suggestion. She left the room shortly after, but not before sending me a reassuring smile. Unfortunately, I was unable to smile back as my body was numb. Eat your food, human. 𝐿𝐹𝐼𝐴𝐵 pointed at the now cold food on my side table. Food was the last thing on my mind, and I knew with the way my stomach was churning that if I ate anything I would throw it back up. I can't, I whispered, shaking my head. Eat, I admitted, looking up at the Alpha who was staring at me passively. Don't be, he simply said as the most easiest thing to do. Oh geez, why didn't I think of that? What's going to happen to me? I asked hesitantly, scared of the answer I would be given. Nothing will happen to you as long as you do as I say. I wanted more. I wanted him to reassure me that everything was going to be okay. I wanted him to tell me that he would protect me and keep me safe. I wanted to hear that. I needed to hear that. For once I wanted to be the one who was being comforted, and I wanted 𝐿𝐹𝐼𝐴𝐵 to do that. Do you promise? 𝐿𝐹𝐼𝐴𝐵 met my eyes but didn't respond. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I began to say, my voice barely a whisper. Am I going to die? This time the Alpha did respond. Stop being so dramatic. Do as I say and you'll live. I had no energy and passion in my body to argue with him and tell him that worrying about whether or not I would be killed by 2 werewolves wasn't dramatic in the slightest. It seemed like my words triggered the Alpha, as he now looked extremely annoyed and pissed off. Without another word he stormed out of the room, leaving me alone with my frantic thoughts. Tears began to prick my eyes as I stared at the door the Alpha had slammed behind him when he left. Dread filled every inch of my body and my heart was racing so fast, loud and hard, that I was concerned that it would jump right out of my chest. With shaky hands, I grabbed my phone from under my pillow and unlocked it. A tiny amount of relief filled my body for a few seconds as I saw the messages from 𝐾𝐜𝐤 and Uncle Tom. 𝐾𝐜𝐤 was safe and would remain safe. I replied back to her quickly, making up an excuse as to why I might not be able to respond to her properly today. Once I did that, I began to text Uncle Tom. The Alpha's parents are here. I paused for a minute before continuing. I didn't want him to worry too much, but I did want him alert just in case things went wrong. They want to talk to me about him. �K𝐼 can't know, and if things end badly, please keep her safe. Waiting for Uncle Tom's response felt like forever, even though it was only a couple of minutes. Are they here? Why do they want to talk to you? I replied instantly. Not yet. I don't know when they're going to arrive. They know why the Alpha is keeping me here and they have questions. Remember what I said. It was all me and �K𝐼 had nothing to do with it. Uncle Tom reply took longer than the first time and I held my breath waiting for his response. Unfortunately, I was unable to see his response as a loud knock broke the silence in the room. Making sure my phone was on silent, I shoved it in my pocket before heading over to the door. I paused as I reached it. What if it was the Alpha's parents? I shook that silly thought away. The Alpha's parents wouldn't knock on my door. They would have barged in or ordered someone to get me. I opened the door to find Teresa standing there. She gave me a little smile and entered the room before I could say anything. They're going to be here soon, she told me as she paced the room. Why was she nervous? She was their niece. If she was scared of them, what did that mean for me? You haven't touched your food. Teresa nodded towards the tray of food. What's going to happen to me? Teresa peered out the open door before responding. Nothing will happen to you. I'll tell you what to say. She peered out the door again and I frowned. What was she looking for? Should I close the door? I asked as I moved towards it. Clearly the open door was distracting her and putting her on edge. No, keep it open. Alessandro said I shouldn't bother you. He'll be pissed if he finds out I didn't listen to him. Teresa admitted sheepishly. Thank you. I suddenly blurted out. Teresa raised an eyebrow in confusion and I quickly began to explain. I mean, for helping me. You don't have to do that. Especially after what I did to your brother. She genuinely seemed very worried for me, and though it was very confusing, and I had no idea why, I was extremely grateful. To her I was just a human. I meant nothing to her, and here she was trying to help me. Not only was I nothing to her, but I took away someone special from her and caused her a lot of pain. Teresa moved towards me and clasped my shoulder. That doesn't matter anymore. How did it not matter? At the end of the day, she believed I killed her brother. She was a better person than I could ever be, because if that was me, I would want her to burn and I would never think about ever helping her. You're going to be fine. How do you know? I sounded like a child asking their parent if everything was going to be okay. But why? Teresa opened her mouth to answer my question, but stopped when someone else spoke. Yes, why? Both Teresa and I froze before turning towards the door where the voice came from. Why would Alessandro protect this human? Chapter 44. She was beautiful. Her mid-length golden hair was tied at the nape of her neck with a few shorter strands of hair framing her soft pale face. Her eyes were familiar, and I knew I had seen them somewhere. Immediately I looked away, not wanting to make eye contact with this werewolf who had to be of high rank. My eyes were trained on the black court heels she was wearing as she took a couple of steps into the room. Teresa. Aunt Rosa. Teresa said warmly, still holding onto my shoulder. This is Nola. My friend. Aunt Rosa. This was Alpha Alessandro's mum. They were here already. Taking in quick deep breaths, I tried to calm down my body that was screaming run. I glanced at Teresa, who was looking straight at her aunt. Resisting the urge to look up and see whether or not she believed Teresa, I kept my eyes downcast. To my agent extraordinaire, Maya Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The woman repeated as if it was such a strangeness to hear. I did not know you were friends with humans. Oh no. Was she was one of those werewolves who hated humans and thought we were beneath them, and both species shouldn't mix. I have human friends, Teresa said casually, moving her hand in a dismissing motion. It's good to see you. Both the werewolves embraced each other warmly while I stood there wondering what I should do. Maybe I should listen to my body and make a run for it while they're distracted. So this is the human Alessandro is holding here. Alessandro's mum, Rosa, said as she pulled away from Teresa. A human he's protecting. Teresa let out a nervous laugh. She's my friend. Alessandro knows that, Rosa murmured, clearly not believing a word Teresa was saying. Look up, human. My eyes immediately darted to Teresa, who discreetly nodded her head. I raised my head slowly and looked up, careful not to make eye contact with her. She began to circle around me as I stared straight ahead. I felt as though I was an object in a shop that she was inspecting and deciding whether or not she should buy. This is the human girl who knows where Harlan is. Shit. This time Teresa had no answer to the question, and I could almost hear her think about what to say next. I had no idea what Alessandro planned on telling his parents. Would he tell them I'm involved like he did with Teresa? Or would he tell them he thought I was involved but no longer thinks that? Rosa stopped circling me and stood directly in front of me, her body so close that I could almost feel her body heat. Look at me. I did as she asked and made eye contact. I now knew where I had seen those eyes before. They were the same as Alessandro's. Do you know where Harlan is? The question was asked softly instead of being demanding and angry like I thought it would be. Swallowing harshly, I answered her question no. That wasn't a lie. I didn't know where Alessandro buried Harlan. I didn't know if she believed me or not. Her eyes gave nothing away and her face was expressionless. Finally, after what felt like hours, she stepped away from me, and I mentally let out a sigh of relief. Bring the human. Your uncle and I would like to talk to her. Rosa told Teresa as she began exiting the room. Neither Teresa nor I moved an inch until she had left the room, and we could no longer hear her footsteps in the hallway. I ran over and slammed the door, resting my head against it. I can't do this. She knows something, I whispered as I closed my eyes. Teresa tried to reassure me. She doesn't know anything. They're just going to ask you a few questions, that's all. My eyes snapped open. That's all. You make it sound like this is going to be easy. If they find out what happened, my life is over. They won't find you, help me escape. Please, I can't stay here. I interrupted her as I began pleading. Please, please help me. I couldn't keep doing this. I felt as though I was constantly on edge all the time, scared that someone would find out the actual truth and would kill me. Nola, you know I can't, please. I repeated as tears began to stream down my face. I'm sorry for what happened to your brother. It wasn't intentional. Maybe it was my compromised vision, but I felt as though I could see the conflict on Teresa's face, as if she was considering what I was asking of her. It was a huge ask. Huge for anyone, but especially for her. I was the woman who allegedly killed her brother, and even though she might not want me to get punished for it for reasons that still remain unknown to me, I knew this was asking too much. But I had to ask. What other choice do I have? That's not possible. Teresa muttered softly. I'll speak to Alessandro and we'll delay the interrogation and we will come up with a plan. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nogan, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Tiny dot of hope I had that she might actually do what I am asking of her disappeared, and I felt like letting out a scream. I meant what I said. Alessandro will not let anyone hurt you. Teresa looked so confident and strongly believed what she said, whereas I didn't. Stay here and don't do anything stupid. I'll speak to Alessandro. Don't do anything stupid. I wanted to scoff at that. We did do something stupid, and we were stupid to think we would get away with it. We should have gone to the police and told them what happened that night. We were idiots to think we could cover it up and no one would find out. I didn't blame Commie. She was just a child defending herself. I blame myself. I was the adult. I was in charge. I should have made the decisions and I should have gone to the police. Would anyone believe us now if we told the truth? Alessandro went easy on me, but I knew his parents wouldn't. Why would they? I was a human believed to have something to do with the disappearance of their nephew. They would torture the information out of me. I would do anything to protect Commie, but I was losing it a little. I was on edge. My emotions all over the place, and one mistake would end it for the both of us. Maybe I should tell the truth. Alessandro won't let anything happen to you, Teresa had said. Trust me. He won't let anyone hurt you. There was something between us. I didn't know what it was, but there was something there. Whatever it was it strong or deep enough for him to protect me? He was already protecting me. Like Teresa, he knew some of the truth and he was still keeping me safe. That meant something. Why hadn't he killed me? He has every right to, and yet here I am standing here. Alive and well, sort of. I was going to tell him the truth about what actually happened that night. He didn't kill or retaliate then when I said it was me, so why would he if I tell him it was actually 𝐴𝐿𝐵? Teresa had said we would come up with a plan on what to say and do about Alessandro's parents and that probably would work if they knew the full truth, but that wasn't the case. If Alessandro actually dug deeper, I reckon he would have been able to find out the truth. He believed what I said and stopped investigating. I was lucky. Very lucky, however. I had a feeling my luck was about to run out. I was being ridiculous before when I had pleaded with Teresa to help me escape. Where would I go? How would I remain hidden? What about 𝐴𝐿𝐵? Would I run with her again, or would it be just me on my own? If I ran on my own, they would use 𝐴𝐿𝐵 to lure me out. They would hurt her to get to me, and I couldn't let that happen. This is the only way. I have no other choice. Coming to a definite decision on what I should do, I took in a deep breath and opened the bedroom door. Looking out, I saw a guard standing at the bottom of the hallway. He felt my eyes on him and turned around. I stepped out of the room and raised my head. I need to speak to the alpha. Go back to your room, the guard said coldly. Can you tell him I need to see him? The confidence in my voice was wavering and I began to sound desperate. He said I could 𝐿𝐵. Before I could finish off the lie, the guard interrupted him. Go back to your room. I will come and collect you if the alpha is available to see you. 𝐿𝐵. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. I whispered. I slowly headed back to the room and sat down on the bed. Was this the right thing to do? Was I making a mistake? The truth would come out one day and I wanted to tell Alpha Alessandro instead of him finding out that I lied to him. What if this is a mistake? What if he hurts 𝐴𝐿𝐵? No, he wouldn't. If he didn't hurt me, then why would he hurt 𝐴𝐿𝐵? My internal battle with myself was interrupted by the guard who told me to follow him. My heart began to race as we made our way to the alpha's room. How would he react? Did he already suspect something? Would he believe me? Would he think I was lying to save myself? Alpha Alessandro was waiting for me. His arms were crossed and I could see the tension in his body. He didn't say anything and I knew he was waiting for me to speak first. 𝐼𝐸𝐻. Should I do this? Should I tell him the truth? Tears began to form in my eyes as I tried again. I have to tell you something. Alpha Alessandro raised his eyebrows but didn't talk. I'm going to tell you the truth about what happened that night. Chapter 45. Alpha Alessandro furrowed his eyebrows. The truth, yes. I whispered as I tamed down the fear that was building up inside me. Go on. Alpha Alessandro motioned with his hand for me to continue. I knew what I wanted to say, but the words weren't leaving my mouth. Frustration and annoyance filled the alpha's face. I do not care to hear the details of that night. I shook my head. 𝐿𝐵. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. It's not the details. It's what actually happened. And what actually happened. Words refused to escape my lips again, and I knew the alpha's patience was wearing thin. Go back to your room, human. He couldn't dismiss me like this. I had to tell him the truth. Wait. I have been waiting and all you have been doing is stuttering like a scared child. Just give me a minute. Please. I begged him. It's important. The alpha let out his eye as if I had asked him to do something incredibly tiresome. Having a quick glance at his phone, he walked over to his desk and sat on the chair behind it. You have 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I had 5 minutes to get the horrible words out of my mouth. Maybe this was a mistake. That's why the words weren't escaping me. Maybe this was my body's way of saying shut the hell up. No. Though I didn't deserve it, both him and Teresa were going to defend me, and the least I could do was tell them the truth. What if they don't believe it? I shook the thought away from my head. They would believe it. Why would I lie now? It wasn't like the truth was very different from what the alpha believed. The rapist did assault someone and that same someone killed him. Only different is that it wasn't me it happened to, it was 𝐿𝐵. That was actually worse. 𝐿𝐵's underage. She's a child. If they were willing to keep my secret and sort of protect me, they should be willing to do the same for 𝐿𝐵. 2 minutes. The alpha loud and deep voice cut through my thoughts and I turned to look at him. He was looking at me, and though his face showed he was bored, his eyes told a different story. He wanted to know what I had to say. He wanted to know exactly what happened that night. As I stared at him, a realization came into my head. I trusted him. I trusted that he would not only keep me alive but keep 𝐾𝐿 alive too. It was a strange realization, and my heart believed it completely. It wanted me to see that I could trust him and he would keep me safe. You have to understand that I didn't actually lie to you. I began to say quietly. I didn't. I started to say the truth and he made his own conclusions. 𝐿𝐹 didn't respond or even move an inch, and I had no idea if that was a good sign or not. Nevertheless, I knew I had to continue, and I took in a couple of deep breaths to calm myself down and draw in the courage to do this. I was at university when I received a call from 𝐾𝐿. She was distraught, crying so loudly and hysterically that it was hard to make out what happened. I knew something was wrong and that I had to go home. I paused to look at the 𝐿𝐹, who was staring back at me with no expression on his face. When I got home, 𝐾𝐿 was in the kitchen and she was scared, crying, and her clothes were torn apart. The 𝐿𝐹 stood up as soon as I finished the sentence, causing me to take a step back instinctively. She looked so small, so frightened. She was a child. I quickly began to say as I walked backwards as the 𝐿𝐹 slowly stalked towards me. I opened my mouth to continue but stopped when 𝐿𝐹 raised his hand. After a few agonizing seconds he spoke. He raped your sister. He didn't rape you. The 𝐿𝐹's eyes were burning into mine as if he had to know the answer to that question, and I felt compelled to answer him. Yes. He raped 𝐾𝐿. It wasn't me. For a split second I saw a flash through his eyes before it became cold again. Relief. Why would he be relieved that it was 𝐾𝐿 and not me? It must have been my imagination because his face and eyes were cold. Extremely cold. I tried to continue but the words got stuck in my throat. What was wrong with me today? Why couldn't I speak properly? So you got revenge. You avenged your sister who had been assaulted by a werewolf. He didn't ask a question. He said it a statement as if that was the truth. Not exactly. I muttered quietly, looking away from him. He took a few steps closer to me while I took the same amount backwards. My back hit the wall and there was nowhere else for me to go. What do you mean not exactly? He didn't even give me a second to speak before he demanded I answer the question. Answer the question, human. He was already dead when I got there. I blurted out. I had nowhere to look but at him. Tell me everything. If you lie again, it will not end well for you. His words promised violence, and yet again I questioned whether or not this was a mistake. When I got to the kitchen, 𝐾𝐿 was huddled in the corner. Her clothes were torn apart. He had ripped her clothes pretty much off her body and she was crying. She was absolutely petrified and she was only defending herself. I tried to explain 𝐾𝐿's action. She didn't go looking to cause anyone harm like his rapist cousin did. She was only acting in self-defense. She was holding a knife and there was a body on the floor. It was a man. He had blood on his torso and he wasn't moving. She stabbed him with the knife. 𝐿𝐹 announced to no one in particular. Yes, she did, but only because he raped her and she wanted him to stop. She didn't plan on killing him. It was an accident. She just wanted him to stop. He had to understand that she was only defending herself and that she had no choice. She's a child. She was. What did you do next? The 𝐿𝐹's voice was low and deep. You have to understand, what did you do next? 𝐿𝐹 repeated the question again and said it slowly this time. I helped 𝐾𝐿 to clean herself up and then, once we realized who he was, we quickly got rid of him. I turned his phone off and we put his car in the boot and took him to saddle with Immerse. It was the short version of what happened. I didn't tell him the emotional turmoil both 𝐾𝐿 and I went to, and I didn't tell him how scared I was once I realized that he was the 𝐿𝐹's cousin. Neither of us spoke for a minute or so. We just stared at each other as we processed what I had just said. He was probably trying to make sense of what I had said and I was trying to figure out what that meant for me and 𝐾𝐿. She was lying. He finally said after a minute of silence. What? I spluttered out. How do you know she was telling the truth? I stared at the 𝐿𝐹 like he was crazy, and he definitely was. Of course she was telling the truth. Why would she lie? She wasn't lying. And you know that for a fact. His voice had a mocking tone to it which infuriated me. Yes, I do. You didn't see her. You didn't see what she looked like. Tears began to blur my vision as I remember how she looked once she got into the bathroom. Her clothes were torn apart. She had bruises everywhere and bite marks too. I don't believe you. Once again I found myself spluttering at his words. What? What do you mean you don't believe me? You're lying. Why would I lie about that? I angrily wiped the tears that had streamed down my face. The Alpha grasped my chin, roughly forcing my face to tilt upwards. You've been lying ever since you got here. Before I could defend or explain my actions, there was a knock on the door. The Alpha immediately let go of my chin and moved away to get the door. I felt as though all the energy I had was drained from my body, and I found myself holding onto the wall for support. My legs felt weak, as if they were unable to support my body anymore. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐤𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Your parents are requesting your presence. A male voice came from the open door. 𝐿𝐤𝐬𝐷 replied back to the man, but I was unable to catch what he said due to the loud pounding in my head. I looked up as the Alpha slammed the door and looked down at me, his face filled with unfiltered anger. I whispered, hoping he would understand why we lied. I've told you the truth now. Please help me. What should I say to your parents? 𝐿𝐤𝐬𝐷 let out a humorous laugh. Help you? He came closer to me and stopped when his face was only inches away from mine. I'm not helping you. You lying bitch. Chapter 46. My mouth was gaped open as I stared at him, trying to comprehend what he had just said. He wasn't going to help me. I didn't understand. He was willing to help me before. Why has he changed his mind now? But your parents, I croaked out, my voice filled with disbelief. They're going to ask me questions, and I should care why. His voice was cold, and I couldn't help but shiver and wrap my arms around myself. If they find out the truth, they'll kill me. I whispered as I searched his face, trying to find something that would suggest that he was just joking and would help me. Again, I should care why. I didn't have an answer to his question or how to respond. I know he shouldn't care about me or what happens to me, but I felt he doesn't will. Since I got here, my instincts have gotten strange, and I was doing things I wouldn't on a normal day. I had to stop listening to it. It's gone haywire. But if I didn't listen to my instincts, then what should I listen to? If I couldn't trust myself, who could I trust? Look, I began to say slowly. I know you're angry, but please, I need your help. The Alpha crunched his face up in mock sadness. Oh, you do? Do you? Why was he acting like this? Yes, I do. I don't want to die. Why wasn't he understanding how serious this was? His bloody parents were here. Your sister should have thought about that before she killed my cousin. 𝐿𝐤𝐬𝐷 snarled, his eyes filled with anger. She was defending herself. Your cousin fucking raped her. I screamed back at him, my own body filled with anger and despair. How do you know it was rape? She probably wanted it. Something snapped in me, and I regretted my actions as soon as I did it. I slapped him with as much strength as I could. My hand was stinging from it, but at that point I could care less. I didn't regret it because I thought he didn't deserve it, because he did. He deserved it. I regretted it because I needed his help, and this wouldn't be helping my case in receiving it. You're disgusting. I spat out. You're just like him. Fucking disgusting. He grabbed my hands and squeezed them tightly, causing me to wince. Do that again and I'll break in your fucking hands. Do you understand? When I didn't respond, he squeezed it harder, causing me to let out a whimper. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐤𝐬𝐷, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Do you understand? Yes, I gasped out, trying to pull my hands out of his. His eyes met mine. After a few painful seconds, he let go of my hands. Do not forget your place. I am an Alpha and you are just a human. A pathetic human. I kept my head down and bit my lip as I struggled to keep my tears at bay. I thought I was doing the right thing by telling him the truth, but his reaction told me I was wrong and that I should have kept lying. What's going to happen to us? I asked softly, my eyes staring at his large retreating back us. The Alpha turned around and I saw the shock in his eyes. Why was he shocked? Of course I would ask what would happen to me and 𝐾𝐽 now that I've told him the full truth and his parents are here. To me and 𝐾𝐽. For some reason I felt as though I had to clarify who I meant by us even though it was obvious. The shock dissipated from the alpha's eyes and instead was filled with a cruel look. What do you think? Your sister killed my cousin. She has to pay. I don't understand. I muttered. Why are you being like this? 𝐴𝐵𝐼𝐸 ignored my question and went back to his desk. I knew it wouldn't be a good idea to anger him any further, but since I was going to die anyway, what harm could it do? I didn't have to pay. When you thought it was me who killed your cousin. You didn't do anything to me, so why will you hurt 𝐾𝐽? His reasoning and thought process confused me. He was willing to not hurt either of us when he thought it was me, so why is it any different now that he knows it was 𝐾𝐽? If anything, shouldn't he be more willing to help her since she's a kid? Please, 𝐴𝐵𝐼𝐸. The sound of his name on my lips had him looking back at me. Please don't hurt her. She's the only family I have. He looked indifferent to my pleading and I felt my heart tight, and at the possibility of anything happening to 𝐾𝐽. She was in the clear. She was safe and I had to ruin that by stupidly telling the alpha the truth. If only I had kept my mouth shut, then this wouldn't have been happening. Please. I tired again. I would keep trying until he changed his mind. Please don't do anything to her. If I lose her, I have nothing. My life would be nothing without her. Please. I'm begging you. I'll do anything you want, just don't hurt her. If you want to punish someone, punish me. 𝐴𝐵𝐼𝐸 stood up from his chair. Don't worry, human. You will be punished too. My eyes widened as I realized what he had said. For some reason, the idea of me getting punished by him didn't cross my mind. I thought I only had his parents to worry about. Fuck. Go back to your room and do not leave it again, he ordered, moving away from his desk. What about your parents? I questioned. They wanted to speak to me. Come. I followed him out of his room like a little lost puppy. My eyes were darting everywhere around me and I felt on edge. My body shaking with anxiety and dread. Were we going back to my room or were we going to see his parents? What questions would they ask me? Would they believe me? Would I tell them the version 𝐴𝐵𝐼𝐸 knew previously or tell them I have no idea what happened to their nephew? My head was pounding so loud I felt as though it had to be audible to everyone around me. Every part of me was panicking. Thoughts were clashing inside my brain, with most of it not making any sense. My body was trembling slightly with unease and fear. My legs weak as if I hadn't used them in over a year, and then my heart was beating at an alarming rate. It wasn't worried. My heart was telling me everything would be okay. But nothing would be okay. Now that I've told the alpha the truth and seen his reaction, I knew this was a huge, colossal mistake and I should have listened to my head instead of my heart. Once we got the room, the alpha practically shoved me into the room, causing me to lose my balance slightly. Thankfully, I managed to get a hold of myself before I could fall down. Seriously, I snapped, throwing the alpha the dirtiest look I could give him. Why did you have to do that? You dickhead, I added silently. Stay in the room. Don't leave it, he commanded, ignoring my question. Wait, I called out to his retreating back. He stopped walking but still had his back to me. 𝐴𝐵𝐼𝐸. His back muscles clenched and moved slightly after I called him with his title, and he slowly turned around. Will you help me? Pure desperation filled my tone. It was seeping with it now. Came 𝐴𝐵𝐼𝐸's blunt response. Resisting the urge to both scream and cry, I asked him another question. What should I say to your parents? I don't know and I don't care. The alpha paused and took a step closer. Lie to them. You're good at that. My mouth dropped slightly and I stood there staring right at him. Without another word, he left the room with me still standing there like an idiot. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought the alpha was upset that I lied. Not angry like expected, but upset. Shaking my head, I dismissed all thoughts about 𝐴𝐵𝐼𝐸 and turned my attention to another person. 𝐾𝐽. She was in the clear and I messed that up. Big time. And I needed to fix it, but I just didn't know how. I wanted to speak to her, however I knew if I told her a small fraction of how petrified I was feeling, it would cause her to go into extreme panic mode and break down. I couldn't have that. As valid as her feelings were, I didn't want them to get in the way and cause even more issues. Perhaps it would be a good idea to tell Uncle Tom. He could help me in some sort of way, and if he couldn't help me, he could help Connie. He could arrange something for her to keep her safe since I failed to do that. I wouldn't tell the Alpha's parents that Connie was involved in this at all. I would tell them she had no idea what I did until it was too late. She was not to blame for this. That was the only thing I could do now. It wouldn't end well for me, but at least Connie would be safe and get to live. A gut-wrenching ache filled my body and I let out. I wanted to live too. My life had barely begun and now it would be ending. There were so many things I wanted to do and so many places I wanted to visit. I wanted to get married, have kids someday and grow old with my husband. It's not fair. I don't deserve to die. I don't want to die. That's all I could think about. Death, and how much I didn't want to die. It felt as though hours had passed, but I couldn't be sure if it was hours, only a few minutes as I sat on the floor in the middle of the room. My brain uttering one word over and over again. Death. The knock on the door pulled me out of the frozen state. I was in my head to look at the door. I didn't respond. There was another knock and then another, both of which I ignored. I knew what that knock meant and I wasn't ready yet. After no response from me, the door opened and in came 𝐿𝐴𝐷𝐞𝐿. He looked down at my pitiful state and let out a sigh. Get up, Nola. I don't want to. My voice was small and scared and sounded like it belonged to a child. You don't have a choice. I don't want to drag you out of this room, but I will if I have to. Help me. I wanted to beg him. Please help me. Where am I going? I asked instead, even though I knew the answer. To see the Alpha's parent.